We are back here at HGC North America, where we are fresh off the Western and Eastern Clash. My name is Jay Howe. Joined with me again here is Dreadnought. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to be back here and kick off things for North America. I feel like a lot has changed. I look away from one phase. Suddenly, North America, Team Freedom's our top performer. HeroesHearth, is kind of struggling here. And then Temple Storm with the new roster. What ended up happening here, Jay Howe?
Well, it seemed like at the Western Clash, North America showed up expectations higher. We didn't quite get those. The one thing that we always know is with you back here, we know that NA's hair game is still strong. But we are also ready to see where the standings lie and how Part 1 played out, so we can take a look at how things kind of shaped up in Part 1 with HeroesHearth obviously going undefeated. Tempo Storm, their lone loss just to HeroesHearth, but Team Freedom, as you mentioned, Dredd, at the Clash showed up. They're sitting in the third spot.
Yeah, they had a very, very good performance at the Western Clash, and I can't help but, I want to pose this over to you and the fact that you were there at the event commentating is, what was the secret sauce? Why did we end up getting that level of performance? I felt like a lot of people at home were going, was this overcorrection out of the other North American teams dealing with the meta, or is this Freedom, putting a stamp here on North America's territory?
Well, it seemed like Team Freedom came in with a different approach when we did get to talk to them. We'll get more into that as the weekend unfolds. As you can see, the schedule earlier today, Fnatic took down Roll20. If you're unfamiliar with Roll20, obviously they were in North America last year, in EU this year. That's the old Zealots roster. Granite Gaming took down Monkey Menagerie. But Dreadnought, we are starting things off strong here with HeroesHearth versus Endemic.
And then, as you said, we're closing today out with LFM Esports up against Simplicity, two of the more struggling teams here in North America, finding themselves in that 7th and 8th slot at the end there. But I feel like this is going to be a great way to be able to start here, part number 2, between HeroesHearth Esports, again, after their performance at the Western Clash. And then I feel like Endemic has kind of been that, I don't want to say rising stars, but definitely, have very good highs, enough to be able to compete against a roster like HGC.
The star power is there. It's just a matter of consistency. When we heard from Michael Udall earlier this phase, he said that getting consistency out of his rosters was one thing that they're trying to do. The problem is they haven't quite found that. Right now, they've been inconsistently consistent, if that's a thing. And for them, obviously, they need to come in. But the bigger topic for me, Dreadnought, and this was something you and I discussed, was when we saw the first Western Clash, Team Freedom went there with the high hopes. And then they had kind of the downturn. And when we talked to them at the Western Clash, they said, hey, it clearly had an effect on us during Part 2 of Phase 1. This time, they went in with 0 expectations and came out on top. HeroesHearth now fits that role of going in with the high expectations, and then they did not have probably as good as performance as many would have anticipated, so now they've got to come back to make sure they don't have that hangover.
I completely agree. It feels like it's almost this, I don't want to say a North American curse or anything like formulating, but we very much do have a trend of once we kind of drop the weight and the burden at the international level, we're more likely to be able to perform, not so much to the level of maybe leftovers was able to at the Western Clash from the European region, but again and again, we've seen those teams that expect a lot of them out of themselves do end up struggling there, but more importantly, when we go back, those teams that we expect to hold their own end up having that kind of slow downfall. So is HeroesHearth Esports one of the only teams we've ever seen to kind of, I don't know, miss out on that hangover, if you will?
Well, we're going to see how that plays out. Before we get any further into this, let's take a look at this matchup between HeroesHearth and Endemic.
Our series against Endemic is going to be incredibly exciting and incredibly fun. I'm sure coming out of a loss that could be so harsh as, to miss a clash, you're really going to want to bounce back and explode out the next season. So we're going to be their first game, and I think that they're going to bring it all. So it should be a really exciting game, and it's one that I look forward to. I feel that Crowan always has this edge to him when he plays against his old teammates. And I think when you play against old teammates, you kind of want to prove yourself to them that, you can compete and you can be at the top level. And I feel like with Crowan on my team, especially against a team that has players like that on it, he tends to step up and make really big plays. So I expect Crowan to step up in this series, and we'll see if we can get picks for him that will allow him to make explosive plays like that again.
Anytime you miss a LAN event and you're as close as we were, right? We were one game off going to Western Clash. I feel like that's a really, really big motivator moving forward. Being so close and being able to taste it and then not being able to go, and then 2 weeks later you have to watch it on the weekend and you're like, I want to be there playing. I think barely missing out on Western Clash was a really good motivator for us moving forward. I think it's something that we're going to be really focused on, really dialed in these next 5 weeks. And I mean, at the end of the day, we just really want to be in a really good spot when playoffs come around. So leading into the first week, we play as HeroesHearth, who's a very, very talented team. You know, I feel like they had a disappointing, personally, I feel like for them, they probably feel disappointed about their performance at Western Clash. I mean, they're still, in my opinion, a really, really talented team, and I think they're going to have something to prove leading into week 1 against us. So, I mean, for us, we're going to really need to bring our A game, because I think HeroesHearth is going to come out looking for blood. So I think a big playmaker for the series is going to be my boy B-Kid, Bang Bang. I feel like he's really grown into the tank role. It's something that he used to do about a year ago, and I feel like he's really getting his footing. That man never misses skill shots, and he's the sidestep king. So I think B-Kid will definitely be the player watching the series.
We got the sidestep king on one side, but we heard from McIntyre, they got the playmaker on the other. Obviously, the Hanzo main there, Curlin flexing onto that hero, and it will be the playmaking potential that HeroesHearth is known for. We know their combos, whether it's through basic abilities or the big wombo combos, they know that they can set it up. But Dreadnought, when we saw them at the Western Clash, they didn't have the success that we knew them to have during league play. Obviously, getting back into the swing of things would be good for them here, but if they do stumble, Endemic, as you said, does have the star power and the potential and the talent all around to maybe score an upset here right out of the gates.
And I think both of the teams in their interviews kind of brought up what I think for me is one of the biggest things I'm looking for is the motivation and drive from both of these teams, right? First from HeroesHearth Esports and the fact that the international performance not at the same level that maybe they would like. And then from Endemic saying that, we're one game away and we're not able to get that we're going to come out here thirsty. And again, if you're using the history that we expect, this should be Endemic coming out swinging, should be able to hold their own contest against HeroesHearth Esports. So I feel like game number 1, there's going to be a lot of momentum gained for either side. And it's important that, if they want to take the series seriously, it's going to start from minute 1.
Well, we're going to see game number 1 and where that's going to be as it's time to check out the battlegrounds and where we're going to be headed here for these teams. Right away, HeroesHearth picking up Volsky as we see the bans onto Brax's holdout by HeroesHearth and Towers of Doom banned out by Endemic, something that, we've seen from them lately, starting to ban out Towers of Doom more. Actually, Volskaya has been their normal ban, but now switching towards Towers, knowing the strength that HeroesHearth has on that at 5-0.
Yeah, Volskaya Foundry, though, is not, a curveball by any means here for either one of the two teams. So, I'm not too concerned. One thing we've got to be keeping in mind now that we are going to, we have ourselves a battleground, and the fact that White Main is coming in, I think supports were a very interesting, I don't want to say problem by any means, but kind of conundrum when looking towards the draft on Volskaya for those long sustained fights. When Deckard was introduced and Malfurion kind of being brought back without his ice block, but White Main is definitely going to come in here and kind of make a splash, and I feel like any territorial advantage kind of battleground like Volskaya will cater to her play style.
Well, we are on the White Main patch, White Main balance patch for next week. So for this week, Chromie was removed. She was slightly changed. But, we do have White Main introduced. We saw the Malfurion changes have a high impact at the Clash, and then Stukov as well. But more importantly for me, as we know that Sergeant Hammer will show up, especially on this battleground, Dreadnought, was Maev showed up a lot at the Western Clash, where she wasn't necessarily as involved during the first part of Phase 2, but definitely something that showed itself quite a bit at the Clash.
Yeah, and when looking towards the Easter scene, even more of a miss, I feel like, than we got from the Western Clash. When looking towards that Maev. That in mind, though, I do think that is something that these teams have to be keeping in mind, is either look for that early game teamfight skirmishing capabilities around control point A, or very much be looking for the macro slow game control that you can get through things that are very oppressive, like you said, with the Sergeant Hammer. Something that will at least deter the Hammer a little bit there is going to be the Medivh taken away by HeroesHearth in that first ban.
Yeah, Team Freedom at Western Clash, obviously not in this one, but they showed that Medivh Hammer could be very strong. An interesting draft to start. The Medivh ban we know showed up a lot at the Clash, but the Abathur ban, we know HeroesHearth does run the solo Abathur at times, so taking out some of those more interesting heroes as Sergeant Hammer. We'll see no play here on Volsky.
Leaving up a lot of the standard OPs, if you will, that we would have gotten out of the Eastern Clash, like things like the Rainer. It's got to be a big concern here. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm not going to come into these drafts with major expectations, knowing it's that big of a patch, and more importantly, that the teams not competing internationally have had 2 to 3 weeks to really work on what they have in store here. So I would expect at least, Endemic possibly to have some pocket strategies coming in. Maybe not at this point in time, but definitely the meta shift in hero priorities for at least the first couple of weeks. I think each team is going to have their own idea of what that is, and drafts be a little bit, less standard. But forming a standard, I'm guessing here, is going to be the first pick Maev coming out from Endemic.
Well, Deckard's going to be the pickup, and Urel, so we know very tanky. Now, one thing for HeroesHearth is that in their 5 losses, they were 2-0'd and 3-0'd in their losses, which dropped them out of the Clash. 5 of those games had a Maiev in them. 3 times that HeroesHearth went against Maiev, they lost. And then the other one that we saw HeroesHearth, they had it picked up. They were unable to, and HeroesHearth, their drafts looked different, right? They were in the same element, but slight tweaks to deal with the Maiev, and they failed in each one of them. And I think that's very telling that Endemic definitely did their homework, as the Muradin and the Raynor are going to be picked up. You mentioned the strong heroes, but Muradin, another hero that's been very strong in North America as of late, especially with B-Kid.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very good there. Whenever I think of B-Kid as a player, even with his time onto other roles, I think of Muradin. So I like that we, kind of get that out from them, especially with the positive words that you heard from Mike Udall kind of being shared there. It is going to be interesting to see whether or not that Maiev, though, is a very big problem for HeroesHearth to be able to deal with, because I feel like when we highlight them as a team, you're talking about just small things on their draft were slightly off, it felt like. But when we look at them as a team, I feel like that was what made them, the top of North America. And I can't help but feel like, again, that burden and that weight put onto the shoulders of this team whenever they go to perform internationally, that lack of confidence in that individual flavor that they have as a team, once that kind of crumbles, everything else quickly falls apart from it. So we'll see, if Endemic and maybe the Maiev is that thing to, again, push the envelope here for HeroesHearth Esports as they getting through the bans. Blaze taken off the table, and last up, Garrosh, not available.
So we know Johanna used to be the natural counter towards Maiev. It's also one of Ishbu's most played heroes, so that seems likely. But now we have to start to consider the Phoenix of the world, the Phoenix and potential Thrall, because this is a team that we know has run the triple melee, especially on Volskaya with the Thrall. You get the Earthquake potential. But Dreadnought, you and I had a front row seat at Eastern Clash. We saw the Thrall. We did not see Earthquake.
We did not. We got the Sundering, and you and I talked a lot about it. Like, when do we go which of these two heroics? And I think I'm still one of the few, especially out of the Western scene, that goes, I think the Sundering more often than not is probably the one that I want to see people go with.
Let's be real. You have enough passion for Sunder for enough of North America.
Yeah, I do. I think the best way to describe it is take my hate for Tyrande, equal love for the Sundering. Is about how strongly I ended up feeling about it. Like some of my, distaste maybe towards Medivh portals, like that is very much how I feel about the Sundering. I think it's a great initiator and disengage counter initiation. Talking about that counter initiation though, Cassia is also amazing in that department for the last slot here for HeroesHearth Esports.
Phoenix making his way through. Cassia, we know, can be strong, does sit into that melee range with that shorter auto attack, sitting at that 4 baseline auto attack range. So Maiev definitely will have more targets to pull. I am curious on how that will function, whether we know Ring of the Leech, very strong at level 4, but you also have the potential for the blind on stunned and things of that nature. So we'll see how that plays. So an interesting draft here. The lack of Phoenix, everything else standard for HeroesHearth, but on the other side, as you said, maybe some time to work on some strategies. They've got the Maiev factor coming in right out of the gate.
I actually really like Endemic's composition. I don't think I look at HeroesHearth and I go, it's weak, but I don't think that it can cater to all elements of the game, right? If Endemic doesn't go toe-to-toe at the initial skirmish and be willing to fight into that Cassia, their macro pressure in the early stages of the game could get them enough to get an early game advantage, and maybe Snowball is out of control. Volskaya is still a battleground, though, even with the experience changes. Isn't as Snowball, you can maintain a lot and kind of dictate a lot of rotations on this. So I like what Endemic has, and I feel like we're seeing that element of like, is HeroesHearth that one element of flavor still here, even returning back to North American soil?
I'm with you. We'll see how the Maiev plays that. It's time to get the day started here in North America as HeroesHearth will take on Endemic game number 1 to start our day, and that will be BBJ. He'll be on the Deckard. Ishbu, of course, on the front line on the Johanna. McIntyre on Urel. Arthlon always flexing around. He'll be on the Thrall, and Crowan, he'll be on Cassia.
And Endemic here looking to turn things around and start part 2 with a positive trade here. We have Dansky, where he's going to be on the Maiev. Cure is on the Dahaka. We have big impact here on Raynor. Malfurion played by Mike Udall. And last up is B-Kid, the sidestep king on his Muradin. Sadly, we aren't sidestepping this pause, though, as get that lined out here for you guys as quickly as possible.
You know, I just had enough time to sit down and stand right back up. It's like my exercise for the day. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to get much else. I just stand here. You know, for these teams, obviously, you know, make sure everything's underway, getting back into the groove, maybe a hotkey or something, just trying to make sure everything's back in place. But again, the MyF factor for me, I think, is would be the most determining factor when I look at these teams. Seeing HeroesHearth struggle as much as they did, and HeroesHearth had the benefit of a boot camp going towards the clash. You know, we saw Dignitas and Team Liquid both show up, and you know, Dignitas said, hey, look, we see a lot of North American teams. They're taking our meta. That's why we saw the return of the Medivh, the MyF, things of that nature. But I really wonder as the day starts to unfold and how much people watch the Eastern Clash. We saw it earlier in Europe. When do we get the Anubarak back here in North America?
I think it will take a little bit of time and punishment, definitely out of that kind of death ball 1-1-3-1 playstyle that we got out of the Eastern scene to be successful within scrims, but I think it's probably inevitable. Again, I expect this very first week, everybody's going to have their own idea what's meta. Quickly, you're going to see that those things end up aligning here. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the pause settled out here, ready to kick things off. HeroesHearth Esports and Endemic on Volskaya Foundry.
You know how it goes. You can't spell Anubarak without NA.
I thought you were going to say a noob.
Ooh, I could have left it simple.
You know, it's
Still correct, though.
Yeah, it's still
That's
not
probably
wrong.
the only NA meme that's spelling-wise that you can come up with, so I think we're 1 for 1.
1-4 split between these two teams is actually not going to be mirrored in the traditional manner from Endemic, and I really like this out from them. Again, not willing to address that full one-on-one, right? Right out the gates in the draft, I said, Endemic does not have to go toe-to-toe within the macro game, and already they are not volunteering for that. This was that flavor and element that when we looked at HeroesHearth Esports, we said this is why they are being the most successful dominant team in North America. And again, it feels like it's a bit of miss here, but then signs of life being displayed. Game number 1 from Endemic. This, ladies and gentlemen, is, at least for now, catering to be a possibly great series.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point because we're going to see Johanna. She'll sniff this out if they can get Yrel on there maybe to survive, but they will be giving up the healing pulse at this rate because we do still see 2 members. McIntyre right into the roots. Nice follow-up here. Michael Udall, that's going to be first blood right out of the gates. And Dreadnought, I got the chance to talk to Wubby while we were at the Western Clash, and you know, we were watching some North America action going on, and it's Volskaya. He's like, yeah, he's like, North America, they love to run their solo lane on the top. And he's like, and he started to talk about the differences, right? Because it's traditionally that bot lane on the differences of how effective that can be. And there is one of the side effects of going towards that bottom, sitting so many. Endemic recognized that. They're able to get the healing pulse.
For a long time since I moved from a shot caller to a commentator, a lot of the questions that you would hear me asking in commentary is, what if we just didn't? And this is exactly that same thought process. Is just taking the standard of what you see in a game, and if your opponent is assuming their decisions minutes and ahead based on you making the traditional decisions, why would you ever make them? Because all you're doing is catering to their style. It's a small thing, but these are the ones that very much add up. Crowin, though, possibly out of position here on the top half. B-Kid able to land the Stormbolt, but not in range for Dansky to get a tether. It looks like he'll be able to make it out of this coral. Endemic did set the tone for the first rotation, but HeroesHearth has been able to answer here after the first couple waves.
Right now, Michael Udall waiting to see what he wants to go with at level 4. Obviously, there are multiple options. We've seen so much of the vengeful roots here in North America that it feels like that's been the staple. But as we started to watch the clashes unfold, there were different priorities and the larger roots potentially to follow up on some of the CC. We will still get the vengeful, but definitely some consideration. Now, again, that's the thing is you don't just get potential changes in the meta in terms of picks, especially with the balance, but potential changes in some of the talents as well.
We do see HeroesHearth with a full 5-man rotation here. Dahaka still worried about that Silk on bottom. Has the Conveyor to be able to join in with Endemic if you'd like to do so in a moment. Dansky going to get the tether along with the brush dog coming in from Cure. Root is thrown down, but it's not going to get the lockdown that they need here as Ispu trying to kite away. A lot of damage coming through. The tether is there to pull back. And another kill here for Endemic here. Over control point 8, I did not think any chance that they would make that rotation because it was so predictable, but HeroesHearth unable to control it.
It's the MyF. The MyF came in, and we saw Ishbu trying to hold point, and the roots that continue to follow up. The Dreadnought, I know that, you know, you took a break for a minute, but then you said this morning, you're like, man, I've got to call Michael Udall on support, and it's your first chance at coming back, and so far so good. Nice follow up, as you know, the initiation's been there, but it is a very different feel for Michael Udall team.
It is a very different feel there to be able to see that coming out from them, but it's net them the 2 kills here early on. They got the control over the early game, but this is something we know from HeroesHearth here as an invade over the turret camp. Full 5-man rotation, whereas only 4 from HeroesHearth. not going to be able to rotate the throw down in time, but they're going to try and defend here. McIntyre gets the leap in, 2-man root from Decker with a 3-man slap there on that hammer. And Endemic trying to make it out, but look at that collapse from Arthalon. Out of position for a moment. Daisy gets the tether, Cure with the drag. No kill yet there.
Michael Udall and team, they're on the backside, and McIntyre with that level 7 cooldown can continue to jump all over this. He's controlling the spot for now, but Biggie and team should be able to walk away as Maev comes in with the counter engage. Dansky just trying to make things happen.
Very good peel there from Mikey Dahl with that route to ensure the escape there with the 3-2 split. Endemic, you know, trying to abuse the fact that Arthalon displayed himself on the top half of the battleground was pretty successful for a moment there. But the fact that they ended up losing the momentum on that top half with that camp, forcing the Dahaka rotation here, and did not get those kills on the escape out, I feel like HeroesHearth got the slight advantage that they were honestly hoping for it. Granted, Endemic probably didn't expect to escape as nearly as they did here. Dahaka will have the brush stock available to come back in here, see if they net the same success that they had over that first initiation in a couple of seconds.
The potions are aplenty on the backside, but Endemic has 2 turrets on their side. Dansky goes in. He's going to get the blink in, does get the tether, pulls in multiple members. The roots by both of the supports coming out, trying to make plays. Cure, however, surviving deep on the side of HeroesHearth with that essence as BKit has to jump away.
Yeah, and Crowan just got way too much value within that team fight. That full 5v5 where they're trying to get the face off here. Hold on, 99%. Cure's going to move in. Dansky with the 4-man tether, pulling them all back there. The Condemn keeping Endemic stuck into a choke as the burrow is there. Will Cure be able to make it out? McIntyre throws down the hammer, trying to get the body blocks as they throw down a blinded drag lands onto Arthalon, and Endemic end up getting the pick here. They're going to turn this fight.
Dansky blinked on just in time as overtime was there. He's going to die in return. McIntyre trying to survive. He's going to go down. BBJ got dragged in. Another nice play here by Cure. It's a bloodbath, but it's in favor of Endemic and Dreadnought. This should be enough for Endemic to not only get the protector, but we look up at the scoreboard. They're going to have 10 when they grab it.
This is a colossal lead for Endemic, and they are very much going to gain a ridiculous amount of control here of this battleground once they pick up this Punisher. Or Protector, excuse me. This is going to be devastating for HeroesHearth Esports. And I was saying just before this, we know HeroesHearth Esports to be a team a little comfortable kind of falling behind in those earlier stages of the game and then be willing to take those major fights later. But I can't help but feel like this is far bigger an advantage, a more proactive advantage gained by Endemic than a large majority of fans at home expected.
We've seen the change up with the Protector at times to where if you are trying to get 10 and you want to get that snowball, you can just push down mid, get the fort wall since the changes to XP, then you get the fort itself, which gives you that 10 race. Because that went on so long, we now see a different use of the Protector. I don't think it's going to get as much experience as they had anticipated. You definitely want to get control and then get the well down, but for them, the Protector at this point, they got most of the damage done in the team fight, and now they're just trying to set up for the future with the Protector itself.
But it is one of those circumstances, his B-Kit actually dropping the Avatar here, is where we look at Endemic and we go, you know, they end up getting that early control, but that is the moment of consistency that we expect from them. They needed to be able to get more out of that, I feel like, to, again, maintain the control that they get out of HeroesHearth Esports. Now, with as little as they've gotten, they find themselves in a situation where it's only about that half-level lead that's going to be negated as Dahaka ends up picking up on bottom, the XP there, but it really is not something to kind of write home about other than you have won the first skirmish. So Endemic setting themselves back there with the Protector.
You mentioned in the previous fight how much value Charge Strikes was getting with that level 1 talent. You're going to continue to try and pull in even more people because not only do we have the Lornado, but we're also getting Valkyrie, not that ball of lightning. So Charge Strikes could have a major impact in these team fights, in close quarters especially. We'll see how that goes, but obviously, you know, getting the blinds from Johanna will help. But these team fights, which have been very tight-knit in terms of the spacing, they're only going to get tighter as we go forward.
Yeah, and Valkyrie normally is a response. I'm going to argue here in this type of situation because of the Malfurion Ice Block. That was why in the past you never took it, is because Malfurion would go bloop, and he'd be like, nope, thank you for the heroic. We're going to win this next skirmish. Now that he is a very vulnerable target, you can probably expect to see more of that being picked up. We've seen it as an answer to 7-sided, knowing that Karazim will always exit the 7-sided in the dead center. It's an easy kind of Valkyrie target there, but it's going to be interesting. I like that we see these differences from HeroesHearth Esports, but at the same time, they're it requires a lot of coordination from their composition, something that HeroesHearth Esports we know typically to rely on. But again, you know, based on kind of the North American curse and things that we've hinting towards, I guess I leave it as like, you know, I want to see it kind of in action before I give much credit. Dansky Finds a two-man tether.
Well, we're about to get some action. Here comes Cure the Lornado, though, down in time. BBJ said, look, this is a scary situation, but I'm going to send you the other way, and that's a short enough cooldown. You know it'll be there for the Protector phase, the control point next, but that Endemic was about to put a stamp on that team fight.
Very good rotation from them. Control point B, or even actually more importantly, looking at the experience here. Remember when we were talking about that Protector and how much they would end up getting out of it? Now Endemic has found themselves, you know, heavily struggling within the experience advantage. They will get a little bit once that middle wave has ended up getting cleared, but HeroesHearth Esports, for being a full level down with, oh, Blessed Shield dropped, not going to be able to get out of here. Big impact. Valkyrie come through, reeling him right back in. B-Kid should have a door toss in a moment as Dansky is there with the tether. But look at this, HeroesHearth Esports finding that pick for themselves, and now they're getting a control of Volskaya Foundry for the first time.
Does seem like they were on the back foot for the majority of the early part of the game, but 10 minutes in, starting to turn up the pace. We'll be curious now, because the Brush Stalker points for Dahaka, because they're so far up and so far down between the control point, most of the control point fights are between the bottom part in this mid lane, and it's just a matter of lane control in that choke point. Dahaka doesn't necessarily get the same type of global value in terms of that instant, you know, gratification of, hey, I've Brush Stalkered in, I get a drag target. It's much longer to find those targets. The distance to make up is far greater, so we'll see how long he chooses to stay down in the bot lane.
Dansky goes in for tether one. He's going to get blinded there along with the roof thrown out by BBJ, but he's keeping himself up, following out there on to that shadow. B-Kid ends up getting the door toss. Drag is there as we see McIntyre leap in for a fraction there. Percentage now going to be controlled by HeroesHearth Esports, but just fireworks here over that first kind of quarrel. HeroesHearth Esports needs to be careful not to get split around this. For now, it is just Ishbu has the Iron Skin if needed.
Yeah, Ishbu, the positioning there, as you can see, the rest of the members tend to fight towards that middle part. Ishbu can hold that point because he's Johanna. Every other hero is far more susceptible to any type of CC. So B-Kid holding on to point. Now Crowan has found his way in, forcing out the root response. That's going to be dodged there by both B-Kid and
Dansky, and they end up getting the isolation there for a moment. Hold up, though, Cure not trying to get the kite away as they already lost Dansky on that Maiev. Big impact. Unable to survive there as McIntyre throws it down a leap once more. Valkyrie will end up bringing Cure into the ranks of HeroesHearth Esports, even if he has the Burrow, excuse me. It's only going to be stalling out here as Mike Udall seems to be the last piece of fodder in the eyes of HeroesHearth Esports.
And that is going to be HeroesHearth. Not only did they take control 2 minutes ago, but they're establishing dominance in this game as they continue to move further and further ahead. They're going to get this fort down. They'll have a protector momentarily. And now we'll see if HeroesHearth, do they choose to push down this top lane with this 16-tier advantage, get a keep, and open this game up? There is a Dahaka on the other side, which does change your mindset playing into a global, but it does look like HeroesHearth will turn their attention to the top lane.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about what screenshot, again, we looked at when looking at Control Point A at the very end of it and what this game looked like. And then now, after that last skirmish, how heavily in favor of HeroesHearth Esports it's going to be. Without the 16, this is very easily going to be the keep. And if Endemic does not tread lightly, maybe a little bit more beyond that is now the siege and the onslaught. This seems to be the focusing here towards the top keep for HeroesHearth. Not looking to fully commit yet. To be honest, I expected HeroesHearth to be far more aggressive there, forcing out the Tranquility. Valkyrie pulling back Cure. He's just surviving for now. Containment disc is going to be thrown out. The peel back. Look at this. Endemic actually holding on for a moment, but then the damage is there. Cure goes down, and a keep quickly behind it.
Well, Ardent Defender was used as McIntyre was pulled in. The Protector coming in to try and get some follow-up damage. Michael Udall just able to step away from that laser, but the damage is done. The keep has been taken. Another kill was there. And you could see there was the thought process just waiting for Cassia getting that Valkyrie. And the minute that happened, they were able to rip it and get another kill.
Cycle down through mid now for HeroesHearth Esports, just opening up the map, making the rotations that much more difficult. Nice cutoff there from Dansky, questioning if he wants to go in with that tether. He's going to have to back out there, scroll the ceiling, unable to connect. No vault here going to be forced. Still 16 out of the window. A visibility here for Endemic, at least for another while, as Brush Talk will be available. But again, I don't know if it's going to happen in the 16 window. Will Endemic look to contest this? Oh, this is very risky if they want to do so.
McIntyre just taking a swing and a miss there. You know, the one stat that always stands out to me is how well Maiev does with melee assassins on the team. When it becomes Maiev with a bruiser like a Dahaka, the success rate is far lower. And Jimmy, he's not exactly bringing that burst damage behind everything. His damage output is great, but he doesn't bring that same type of burst damage. So the Maiev, I think, has looked fine, but and it's created a lot of chaos, and the disruption has been there with the drags. But I honestly feel like there's the element missing of that assassin alongside him.
Yeah, we'll see if they'll feel that here as Dansky actually going in. Gonna land the tether onto Crow and Blessed Shield locking down 3. Dansky trying to kite out there. Valkyrie will not be able to pull him in as he gets the vault. Containment disc is used, but big impact trying to survive there onto the backline, but Jimmy will not make it out of that one. He is going to be first to drop. 3-man condemn out from Ishbu. They need follow-up crowd control if they're going to get any other kill here. B-Kid drops a Stormbolt onto McIntyre, stopping the advance. Endemic does make it out here, but surely comes at a big cost.
Yeah, I think that stun there actually stopped the bleeding, because with McIntyre, of course, going the cooldown reduction at level 7, every time you hit an enemy hero, it goes on a 1-second cooldown, and he would have just jumped around in there. I mean, it's like crisscross. They'll make you jump.
They will end up making a jump there, and HeroesHearth now making Endemic at least jump towards this bottom lane, looking if they can get maybe the last even talent here skirmish. McIntyre just joins right over, slaps Cure around there. That's going to be a ragdoll thrown in there, and now with HeroesHearth Esports picking up this bottom fort, furthering the race to 20. And Jayhow, this is, though you were talking about the melee assassin within the composition for Endemic versus the Dahaka and the trade-offs there. For me, though I do agree with you, the numbers here are backing that towards the double melee assassin and having that skirmish. A lot of this was just Endemic not doing anything with a massive advantage and then waiting for HeroesHearth to take an even fight. And now it's them trying to be responsive and deal with it. And now compositionally, it just looks like it's almost too far out of reach here as the 20 is being crept on by HeroesHearth.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. HeroesHearth just pushing forward. They have to take this fight right here before 20, but we see the response out by HeroesHearth as they continue to bring the fight, and B-Kid staying and surviving on the backline, but does he have any follow-up at all? The rest of the team being zoned out by the Earthquake, and now they're trying to get the follow-up in. But McIntyre takes another swing at it, knocks down multiple members. Michael Udall unable to get the lockdown, and here's 20 for HeroesHearth.
Yeah, and HeroesHearth needs to just wait out at worst a couple of seconds here. They're 13 seconds out from their isolation in their composition, so Endemic has 10 seconds to get a kill, or this is going to be bad here. Dansky trying to make it damage happen with that fan of knives, but it's not enough. Slaps coming through there by McIntyre. Not able to land that hammer, but quickly another E behind it. Bolt out from Arthlon, and another kill. Will they end up getting the track down to B-Kid? One Stormbolt available here. 2 members of HeroesHearth Esports, meanwhile, though, picking up the turret camp. Johanna starting that percentage over control point C. And this game looks all but over here for HeroesHearth.
Yeah, you hate to really say, hey, I think this is over, but the success rate at this point, when you have the 20-tier advantage, the keep wall already down, you're already softening up the keep. This protector is almost unstoppable. I mean, there's nobody on the other team. There's not enough damage in the world that will be able to keep that protector from going directly to the core and taking it down. So for HeroesHearth, could just be a formality. They get the Valkyrie in. They don't even have to full clear this, but I mean, at this point, why not?
The only thing left on a major outplay for Endemic is like through a containment disc, mega outplay. Cure gonna land the drag on Arthlon. He's taking a bit of damage there, but McIntyre now seems to be the focus. Arthlon actually getting kited back into the pots. B-Kid having to pop that Stoneform to try and survive. Double E from McIntyre. Containment disc is there, along with the Tranquility from Mike Udall. Still control point C, 15 points remain. Dansky with the 2-man tether, not going to get a full pull yet. B-Kid trying to kite away. The healing on the 13's not there. McIntyre with the final slap down picks off the kill, and HeroesHearth Esports end up winning over the eternal fight of bottom keep.
Like, they didn't even need to take the fight. They've got to be careful. If he actually dies there, I mean, outside of a major misplay, this is it. And all of a sudden, Endemic, they're starting to make things happen. Dansky, see if he can survive as the heal's coming out from Michael Udall. But Dansky, he's going to fall. Cure, he's going to fall as well. HeroesHearth open the door for Endemic. Right as Endemic started to walk through that door, they shut it right in their face and said, hold on a second, let's go back, get the protector, and win this, because all they had to do was get the protector.
I was going to say, do we need to play the angel on HeroesHearth's shoulder and be like, hey, guys, there is a protector back there. Yeah, right there, Ishbu. Yep, it is going to be there online. 15 seconds out from that, ladies and gentlemen. And as we said, the tale hasn't changed after that fight over bottom. It is still a very long window from Endemic to get that 20 spike to be able to contest. If anything, losing themselves a member, for 20 seconds longer than HeroesHearth Esports. Travel time not being concluded within that analysis, but you guys get the gist of it here. It is going to be a difficult task. And HeroesHearth, it feels like they are, again, kind of walking the red carpet here to game number 1.
HeroesHearth, they have admitted many times that, hey, sometimes we get down. They've joked in the past, unless we're down 3 levels, we're not winning. They weren't quite down 3 levels, but they definitely suffered defeat over that first control point. Dahaka coming in.
This is actually one of those few windows we were talking about. The fact that they're unwilling to bully within that 20-second window shows that Endemic essentially has an opportunity now. It's going to be a 5 versus 5 where they get to choose to fight past the keep, buy as much time for the split, get a kill on the backline, and then back up peel while they're down a member. It's still very difficult, but it's an option. Valkyrie already burnt there by Crowan.
I'm not sure what's going. HeroesHearth, I feel with the Protector at this point.
Well,
they just got the Rainer, but it seems like you can just walk up to the core with the Protector with 20-tier advantage. So far, they're just kind of taking the fight to them. Dansky barely surviving. Arthlon and team, now they turn their attention to the core, and this Protector should be able to rip through this despite whoever falls on HeroesHearth.
Despite what goes down there with HeroesHearth Esports, but I like Endemic at least, kind of bringing the fight they're attempting at the very end in those very difficult situations, especially from a roster that has not been around as long as we see there on the other side of the battleground. HeroesHearth Esports with Game 1 on Volskaya Foundry in very HeroesHearth Esports fashion.
Just, slow to start, fast to finish. Maybe throw things around a little at the end.
Don't get me wrong. If looking at a team, I love a team that is far more efficient in the later stages of the game. If you got to be good at the early game or the late game, I will take the late game out of those two. But by no means would I expect, again, that early game. It was, 4-0 when it came to the kills, multiple deaths over Control Point 8, and a full level pre-10. I can't help but feel like Endemic, going back looking at the VODs, they're going to be like, this could not end where we get, a front wall turret in a fort.
They didn't even get the well on that top lane.
For anybody who wants to know why I give so much harp on that moment, okay? Remove the Punisher or Protector from that type of situation. You have 10 advantage over your opponent. You can choose any lane and force a free turret and a well. You still can force that. So why do you need a Protector or, to be able to make that happen? That means we should minimum double down on that kind of investment in that situation. And that is, again, where I feel like HeroesHearth got the 11-11 fight back to even footing. And then it was way out of control from that.
It did seem a little off. HeroesHearth, they kind of, I don't want to say they let go a little bit of it seemed like they had a stranglehold on the game, especially I think it was 20-17 at one point. And give credit to Endemic. You pointed it out. They took the best fight they possibly could outside of that keep area. But for HeroesHearth, do we expect a cleaner game from them? Like after they start getting the wheels moving, the wheels start turning, should we expect more from them in that situation to just say, hey, look, we've got a 3-level lead. Let's just close it out?
I think that's a tough question to ask. I will tell you my honest answer is yes. I do. If you come out and you're the top team in North America to, back-to-back phases and go undefeated in the last one, I think it's fair to start asking those things of a team, especially when facing against the 5th seed in North America, right? Yes, they are maybe borderline 4th when it comes to actual gameplay itself, but when looking at that, if you want to perform internationally, I feel like the best place you make that happen is when playing your routine matches, right? The ones that you expect. That's where you start upping your bar and you're going, we can never let this happen to us. And the fact that it is, yes, this is just one game, but it is something that I'm going to be looking at through the entirety of this part, because if they are as successful as they have been, they have to do this against Korean teams. They have to do this against Team Dignitas, and I'm not sure, again, letting that happen against Endemic, it's something that will perform at that level internationally.
Well, they have high success on that battleground, undefeated in league play.